So welcome everyone to Relationships and ROI, where our goal is to help you strengthen, build, and nurture your relationships with your ideal audience to help you have positive ROI in your business. I'm your host, Jessica Phillips with Now Marketing Group and Relationship Marketing System, where we do digital marketing solutions to help you build know, like, and trust relationships with your ideal audience. We also have Ravi Shulk with us, which is a social media and online customer service expert. He loves to help businesses online effectively manage their customers by using social media. He's also the founder of The Secrets of 5-Star Service, an online membership site to help businesses and business boost their customer loyalty and sales. And last but not least, Mike Gingrich, who is president of the website agency Digital Hill. He's co-founder of Tabsite and the popular podcast Halftime Mike podcast, which is full of digital marketing solutions that you have to check out. So welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. If you could tell Little Bird, share it on Facebook, let everybody know that we are live. We're going to dive into serving over selling, the relationship marketing approach to doing business, and how it's a little bit different than just selling and what it means to provide service in your business and serving over selling. I often tell clients when we work with them that it's time to fire their sales team. And they're like, what? And I'm like, no, before you send anybody packing, I don't mean it like that, but it's just another way of thinking about doing business. It's all about serving and having that mindset first and foremost when you're going into getting more sales. It's all about serving. So Ravi, what does this mean to you when we say serving versus selling and how it relates to relationship marketing?
Sure. So I think with regards to relationship marketing, so if we just take a look at first of all, the basic title, so serving beats selling. In my opinion, when we hear the word serving, it's obviously to give something away, right? Now, when we're talking about relationships in terms of value, when you want to offer that serving, it's not something that you should expect a specific type of reward or response back. When we talk about serving from a relationship angle, I feel that it should be something that you should be willing to give away. And when we talk about business, that willingness comes in the form of either content or even conversations you have with your customers, where you're happy to give away your time, your knowledge, or your expertise. And then that helps build the trust, which then obviously helps to sell. Now, compared to selling, where there's nothing wrong with it, but what we're saying is, if we can serve to help build the trust to get sales, it's a more authentic way to approach it rather than kind of cold hitting your list or your prospects with your amazing shiny product.
I love your example of that. Mike, what about you?
Yeah, I think Ravi gave a lot of good information there. And I think if I was going to add something to that, I would say that social media has really driven the need to distinguish between serving and selling and that relationship approach, just because social media by its very nature is two-way and relationship based. And so I think that's driven a model in where businesses have to be more transparent, more ready to interact, and it's moving away from that transactional approach. That's the selling approach is just kind of once and done, where a serving approach is more of a ongoing relationship. It's reciprocal, and I think it's long term, and there's but it's from a mindset shift. Am I just trying to unload another product here, which can be a selling mindset, or am I trying to give that customer a solution that's going to work for them and care for them over the course of its lifespan, and as their needs adapt, be ready to help them with those things.
Yeah, I love it where you said it's a long-term approach. You're earning their attention and your right to sell to them versus begging for it. And I love this quote that is said, smart marketing. Let's see if I can post in here. Good marketing, makes the company look smart. Great marketing makes the customers feel smart. So when they feel good about the decision that they've made to work with a business, they're going to stick with it, and they're going to tell their friends and build that repeat referral business. And you no longer have to keep begging and asking for people to, continue to buy from you and to buy that next product, because you've already earned that right to sell to them. And now they're proud to tell their friends because they feel like they've made a good decision, versus that, if you jump quick to the sale, that buyer's remorse is going to happen potentially.
Yeah. And isn't that key? I mean, when they feel good after the sale is over, when the customer does, as opposed to that hollow feeling of, oh yeah, I guess I did buy that and that's what I have now. So yeah, that sense of they made a good decision and they're still continuing to be excited about that decision. They're ready to move forward with, using what they have purchased.
Exactly. So now that we kind of have a good idea of what it means to add serving into the business model, what are ways that businesses can go about adding serving into what they're doing versus the traditional way of sales?
Sure. So wait, would you like to repeat that question? I think the signals, it just said there's a little bit of a poor signal, so I caught a little bit in between of the actual question.
Sorry. So now that we understand what it means to add serving into relationships, into the sales process, more serving approach versus selling, what are some ideal ways that businesses can add this into what they're doing every day? How can they incorporate it?
Sure. So I would say that one key way to add it in from a serving standpoint is obviously when you want to serve your customers, your ideal scenario is serving them a service or product that obviously adds value to their current situation, whether it be in their business or personal life, depending on what you're doing. Now, I think the key way you can do that is obviously using customer feedback and obviously research to find out what your customers are saying or what their pain points are, because that in theory is what you're going to be offering their solution to. So your ideal customer has a problem, has a need that they're looking to fulfill. And obviously the reason we buy products and services from a business standpoint is to help fulfill that need. So if you can find out exactly what your target market is struggling with or what their pain points are, then when you're serving them, it means proactively approaching your customers and obviously helping them by answering those key questions and obviously complaints, especially on social media. You can actually do that online via, it might be blogs, it might be chats like this blab that we're having here today, or it could even be via email conversation. So I think get to know more about your ideal customer and their mindset, and then obviously tailoring your solution to answer those specific questions. Because if you don't do that and you offer someone a Ferrari when they only want to drive around town, it's not going to be practical. So you need to find out what their needs are, and then obviously you can become a better salesman by then offering something that's in line with those needs.
Yeah, I like that. Definitely. You have to know who they are before you can even offer how you're going to serve them. So that is definitely key. And we call this kind of in the relationship marketing or inbound approach, buyer personas, like understanding and knowing who your personas are, because you might have more than one, but tailoring your approach different for each one and how you can best serve them. Would you add anything to that?
Well, I will give one, practical digital example of serving versus selling, and that is, I think, adding a resource blog to your website. So a lot of websites are out there, and they showcase your products, that type of thing. Maybe it's e-commerce or maybe it's not e-commerce, but it's just about your products or services. But those who are going beyond just selling and serving have added that resource blog to their website, which offers up exactly what it says: resources. It offers up help. It offers up education. It's beyond your product. It is things that might pertain to the how you use it, or that might be industry related or application related. So it is a serving mentality, is to offer them things there of value, which are not directly related to, and you need to make this purchase now to implement that. And I think of specific example, I was just coming across a realtor's website and reviewing with them some of their content. They're doing a great job because a realtor, obviously, they trying to sell homes. Okay. Mm-hmm. But, we're not buying homes every week, every month, every year, that type of thing. So what does that realtor do in between? So they can offer resource-rich content. There are people who are getting ready to sell their home. There are people who, so it's ways to get your home ready to sell, or, what to look for when you're going to purchase your insurance for your home. So it's things that are related. Those are resources. That's helpful information that is serving that person, but it's demonstrating the value and the kind of care that you want to bring to that relationship.
That's a good point. I know a realtor that we work with too, Yoakum Realty, and they're doing the same thing. They're adding the value there. They even took it a step further and they started offering free agent training, to the real estate agents, even if they weren't, a real estate agent of theirs, but they started providing that training because they knew that the more help that each agent could be, the more potential work that they could be doing together, and they decided to build more teachers versus just them, being the teachers. They started offering that training right there on their website. And I think it goes back to just being so passionate about what you do. And I love this saying, and I don't know who said it, but it was be more in love with the problem than you are with your solution of how to handle it, but be more in love with being able to solve the problem, that you look for alternate ways, not just your own way of doing it, but be so in love with wanting to solve this problem for others and passionate about what you do that you become this teacher and you want to help everyone kind of adapt and solve the problem. And they started, like I said, offering those free trainings right there on their website for other agents and giving those value-added downloads to, buyers, sellers, people that are wanting to invest in properties and all that. And now, their site is now an authority on the web for that in this market.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that and say the value point you mentioned is definitely key because I'm not sure where I heard it, but I heard something on the lines of if you want to earn $1 million, you have to help 1 million people kind of thing. So if you're able to focus on the value, so then the monetary side would obviously take care of it. But in theory, if you helped 1 million people, you're obviously going to generate the kind of income and revenue you want. So from a business point of view, if your goal is to help as many people solve a certain problem or specific, like real estate, for example, if their goal was to, put X amount of people, in homes between the age of, whatever it is, or a certain demographic or area, then that's going to be more valuable to them for in terms of something to chase or, push towards compared to like a financial figure where if you chase it, you more often than none, you find short-term gain and it's harder to maintain in the long run. So I think that's a great point with you mentioned about looking at the value and, building that value will help you build an authority. So I think for those listening in, that's something that you want to maybe jot down and have as a key takeaway.
It's like the law of attraction. You're going to get get back what you put out, and if you're willing to be open and transparent and be the teacher in that industry, you're going to find more and more people that are interested in learning about it. But the key point there is that you have to be open and willing to do that and to kind of let down your guard and feel like I'm going to be helping more people that is going to, also help my business in return versus being scared of putting out, your secret sauce, if you will, that others are going to be able to copy and duplicate, because nobody should be able to copy and duplicate your own art. They may be able to provide the same service that you're providing, but nobody should be able to do it exactly the way that you're doing it. But be willing and open to add and serve everyone, and you'll get back tenfold.
And I think that I just did a podcast recently on this with my Halftime Mike, and that was entitled the what that drives the why in business. The what that drives the why, I should say, did I just say that wrong? The why that drives the what. The why that drives the what. It
sounded good both ways, Mike.
Yeah, did it? Okay.
Yeah.
But basically, that if you're if the why is only just a simple transactional, I mean that's you're going to run out. Your tank is going to run out of that, and it's going to be tough to keep that renewal if there's nothing larger than that. So I'm thinking the why, even in business, behind that needs to be greater. That emphasis of Mark Zuckerberg says Facebook, to make the world a more connected place. Okay, that's the why that's driving his what, and that's a serving mentality. To make the world a more connected place, as opposed to saying, our bottom line goal is to make more, ad revenue. And I mean, yes, they want to do that, and they're trying to give a return to their investors, but he's keeping that mission out there. That's the why, and I think that you need to come back to a mission, and that mission is going to be long term. Serve you the best when you understand that as something that offers value in a serving context that is greater than you. How can you add value? How can you do that uncommon thing and make that lifelong commitment, long-term relationship there? And how can you have that type of goal, which is of serving, adding value, that ultimately results in sales, but is not just simply based on that individual transaction.
Yeah, because it makes it makes your business easy to do business with, right? And it doesn't feel like a sales transaction. People just feel like they're having a need met. So they're willing to kind of spend more time with you and feel like you're willing to invest in them. And then they'll be able to send those repeat referral business to you as well and invite more people. So it almost becomes part of your marketing army. You're recruiting more people for your business to bring it in. When we do like a discovery questionnaire with all of our clients, we ask them, okay, where do you find your best leads? Where are they spending their money on marketing? What kind of messages are they putting out? And, what's a return? And then ultimately asking them where are they finding their best leads. It always comes down to that word of mouth referral. That's saying that was the easiest transactions for them. It's the business that comes in, and they have long relationships with those individuals. So it's finding a way to kind of clone that process of building repeat referral business. And by doing this, you may be investing a little bit, to get it started and to build those value-added pieces of content, or to, you're spending time every single day investing on social media, but really it's becoming part of your operations, it's becoming part of your sales, it's becoming part of your marketing, and overall just making it very, very easy and for people to do business with you and to refer other business to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love that Facebook, going back to the mission, it was just creating a more connected place. And I know I talk about Simon Sinek all the time, but Simon Sinek, start with why. I mean, it makes sense. He talks about why the Wright brothers had, no budget for marketing, no way of, getting their message out. But Langley had all of the money for, marketing, and had the news reporters following him around and all these people following him, and had the budget to, do the flight project. But it was the Wright brothers that actually was the first to do it, because they had that passion there and that why of why they wanted to do it. And ultimately they were the ones with the most success at the end of the day.
Yep. And I think, that helps drive innovation as well. When you think of Facebook, and one of the things that's impressed me over the course of time is their ability to not be stagnant, not sit on their successes, but to continue to innovate. And I think the mission, the serving, making the world a bit more connected place, is helping to drive their innovation. And so by going after that mission, that is helping them think of new ways, more ways, other ways that they can do that, which ultimately is helping their business. It just means more people and more time spent on Facebook, which they know then takes care of itself with their ad model in their revenue. But it's helped them not just say, well, this is enough, and keep finding other ways to go forward.
No, it's great.
I like that Seth Godin quote there. That's great. Yeah. Connect with people, to interact with them in a way that leaves them better than we found them, more able to get where they'd like to go. That's the essence of what we're talking about here, serving versus selling, and that makes for a great salesperson in my mind.
Yeah, we put together like a list of our favorite quotes. So I have every team member kind of, as they start with us, it goes along with the mission, but everything that sums up kind of what we do. And I'm like, this is, if you can understand these quotes, you can understand what our purpose is.
There you go.
Is to leave people better than, when they first arrived, they feel like they are the smartest person in the room because we're offering that value. So I reference that quite a bit.
Okay. You got 28 quotes there. I got to go check those out then.
Yeah. There's more. We limited it down to 28 to make it easier to read.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say also in terms of adding that value, and obviously with that feedback, it does mean you should be also willing to be honest at the same time. So what I mean by that is I might not have all the information the customer's looking for, but suggesting resources where they can find that, even if it's a competitive business to yourself, you're still offering the value to the customer because you're giving them the information they're looking for, rather than saying, sorry, we don't know anything about that particular area, and leaving them lost. So if you can actually direct them to something which may seem counterproductive because it's away from your business in the first place, but in the long run, you'll find that they will come back and say, well, these guys were the ones that kept everything 100% and honest, and we kind of trust them. So there's been examples where I know Zappos comes up a lot, but someone even asked to order a pizza, and they're obviously a business that does fashion, clothing, shoes, and they sent the pizza there, and then I think they actually said, don't quote us on it to test it out, because obviously they would follow through. But it just goes to show that their staff were obviously trained to help the customer, even if it meant moving business directly outside what they have to offer.
That's a good point, though.
Making the connection, making a helpful connection. Making that connection, I think, is so important. So it's saying, hey, we might not be the best fit here, but I think this will be, and that can be business that comes around later on, because you were honest that you weren't the perfect solution, but you gave them direction on something that could be, and so that means something there. You earn a piece of respect in that regard, and that can only serve you down the pike as well.
But then people learn to come back to you as the source of information, like you guys are both saying. We use this in our social media posts. We call it the 10-4-1 rule, when I just posted a link to it. But in social media, there's so much content. This can go across the board with whatever industry, but there's so much content being produced all the time. And some people really find a niche for content that they do really well, and they are already producing this content. It doesn't mean that you need to reproduce all the same content that's already out there. You can also share just their content on your social media platforms, potentially. Like, we use 10 curated pieces of content that are good information, good pieces of content that we know that our buyer personas would want for that industry. Share it, source it on our page. And then 4, so that's the 10. The 4 is our own content. And then the 1 is like a landing page or value added offer that we would put out. But because we're curating all the content that our personas want right on our social feeds, then people learn to come back to us as the resource versus just going out, to other sources to get it. They can just come right to us and find that information, even though it may not be directly from our blog that we're publishing it. They're still coming to us as the source of information. Yep.
Being the source is offering a service there as well. All right. Yeah. So hopefully we're going to get Ravi back in there. He said he'd had a little bit of connection issues, so I'm guessing that's what he's got going on now.
It wouldn't be a fun blab without some technical, difficulties.
Yep.
Yeah, our last blab, it kept saying that the recording was still going, waiting on presenter, even though I stopped it. So it was like I think our session lasted about 2.5 hours. Thankfully, the awesome team at Blab is fixing that video and getting it back up for us so we can add that onto our YouTube channel. But it's, the new technology still in beta, has little quirks here and there.
All right. Now I see Ravi there.
I don't see him. You see him?
Okay. Well, I see him up in the top as like an attendee.
Oh, so I do. Yeah,
get him in to lock his seat in again. So hopefully he'll come through and do that. There he is. All right. So Jessica, do you have a next area you want to discuss in this?
Sure. Yeah. So just to kind of pull it back together, we talked about, being passionate about your company and your services that you offer, being more in love with the problem than you are just your one solution to do it. And then operate in a manner of serving, meaning that you're going to add value to people's lives. And you can do this by sharing thought leadership in your content that you're producing, your social media platforms that you're putting out, curating content and from other sources as well, and not being afraid to refer out, if need be, if it means that is the best solution. But the key point is always building that know, like, and trust relationships, and the sales will come naturally from that. So other than that, it was really just talking about other areas that we need to be aware of when we are doing serving and we're operating this mechanism, is basically making sure everyone else is on the same page is one area that I could see. If you're putting out content, making sure that everyone's trained on your team and knowing what your why is and your mission, and being able to answer questions. That's definitely a way of serving, and anything else that you can think of, Mike, too, as things to look out for, things to know to really implement this.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to your hiring process again. So you talked about it in some of the quotes that you put together with your team. And I think that kind of, again, comes back to a philosophy, a mission, and you want to be training your team in how you go about that process. I mean, so it can be from the get-go, from that initial meeting with a potential client, that can be more of a fact gathering, information gathering, trying to understand and learn about their business, understand about their tech, their pain points, I should say. That's what it is. You want to hear what their pain points are, and so maybe more so than making sure you get across all your slide deck and that type of thing, but trying to make sure that it's connected to what their needs are, what their pain points are, what's going on with them. And there he is. He's welcome back, Ravi. And
it's always a simple refresh that fixes it. Press the reset button, click refresh.
I always tease, it's like those old Atari games. You just got to blow in it. Sometimes the refresh is the same thing, I don't know. We were just
so I think the training that goes into it is critical for your team, and that's that sales process. Is it about gathering information, solving problems? So that's in that client meeting. But beyond that, it's about what you're putting out there on your blog, your resource area ahead of time. What you're offering to the to the industry, to people that have needs for your services.
Yeah, and that goes back to asking your team, though, what questions are coming up or what pain points are newly coming up, and then thinking of ways that you can incorporate that to better serve. So maybe if it's, you're being asked a lot that, hey, I would really like this to be on your website. And I would really like to see this as I'm, checking out. But taking that feedback of what you're hearing from your team, from the clients that are there, and incorporating that into other ways to serve. So with blog articles, videos, even in our own industry, we've had simple videos as simple as how to add, a Facebook admin, because it's a question that came up again and again, and you could say, oh, you could Google that, or instead we took the approach of, let me do a screenshot video, show you how to do it, and send it directly to you from us. And it's just taking those extra steps to provide that extra level of service that they appreciate.
Yep. And I would also add that for those whose product or service is more one time, there's still the ability to have and serve that person in a long-term relationship. We set up websites, web software, and so there's often a launch point. That was the website, that was the web software. But what we found is that that's our mentality is not, okay, that's the end of that transaction, but it's that's the next milestone in the relationship. So we want to come back to them in a few weeks. How's that going? Are you utilizing all the features? And then there's coming back to them maybe 8 weeks later, and it's keeping them aware of industry news, industry trends. Hey, the Google algorithm made this type of change, so you want to be aware of these things, or that's ongoing serving of them that is saying that, yes, we built this, but you're in our community. You're part of our, ongoing relationship. So, even as you're not needing anything from us now, we're still, carrying that relationship forward and offering you, some resources along the way that's maintaining that relationship.
That's good, because it's not just, hey, we missed you, come back and use us. You're staying top of mind by adding value, which is going to, in the long term, make more of an impact than just those, hey, we miss you, time to try us out again, and just trying to throw the discounts out there to get them back and to win back the business. You're earning the business back by continuing to develop those relationships.
Staying with them over time. Yeah.
Yeah. Just on the end of that, I'd probably also say when you're talking to your employees, obviously one of the key is to empower your employees, because a lot of them will have the knowledge and info that your customers are looking for, and you'll also find they're the more powerful brand ambassadors for your company at the same time. If you can give them that extra bit of responsibility to share their experience, and which is probably why in the social media space that we're in, a lot of the content that's resonating with people is the internal goings on in a company, how we hire at X and Y, or how our companies built the blog to, this many followers. And it's the internal stories that are helping to bring people in and help them connect with the company a lot more than just obviously the products and services. So if you give them that power to provide the value, then obviously they'll be your strongest ambassadors as well as your customers.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Now, side note, and this has anything to do with our topic right now, but I love this new Blab feature where up in the top right you can see where your audience is at. This is just again, they're innovating and they're doing new things. I know it's been around a little while, but I love that piece. I can see we got somebody from, looks like North Africa right now. I don't know if they're in Morocco or what, but that's great. We got a good West Coast representation on the U.S., East Coast representation. There's Ravi's green spot in the UK. It's just kind of neat to see where people come in from all over the world and talk about a common topic.
But as it goes, it does kind of tie in, because when you think about serving, there's no limits on your demographic. Your serving can go above and beyond, and it can live on. One piece of content that somebody's found valuable, they'll then pass on and share on, and has this way of just repurposing itself, versus you're not as amped to share a piece of sales content with the world, but you are more amped to share and to participate in content that's going to help you, and that you're going to want, like we said earlier, to be the smartest guy in the room. If you found the solution to something, you're going to want to share the solution that you found with others. And at the end of the day, it does come back to adding sales to your business, but that was never the original intent. It was just to add value.
Yep.
That is very cool. So we're going to open it up at this time for questions. If you have questions, please type them in. We're going to put some resource links in here as well to things that we've talked about. But any finishing thoughts, Ravi or Mike, as we start to wrap it up?
I'll probably say a finishing thought would be, we're not saying that selling's wrong. What we're saying, we obviously respect that people who go out there and maybe cold call or sell directly. But what we're saying is, if you are going to sell your products or services, if you're able to have the knowledge and understanding about your customer, you can do it in a lot more meaningful way that builds a relationship up. So we're not saying ignore sales. We're just saying have that customer driven, focus behind what you're delivering out there. And that's obviously going to help return value, which helps to increase trust, which leads to sales. So empower employees, have more, gain that knowledge on the customer so you can better understand their needs, and look to serve your community based on those needs on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's good.
Yep. No, I think that Ravi's exactly right. We're not against selling. Selling is a part of it, but it needs to be in a broader context, and I think it has to have a deeper why. And I think that's the trend we're seeing on in business today. And Facebook's a good example of that. I think of companies like Sevenly and some others that are doing some social good, that have maybe a double bottom line that they're looking at. They're looking to serve communities and serve the customer. And I think in this day and age of social media, of content marketing, that service is front and center, and that's how you win long-term business.
Yeah.
No, I would agree. So and my finishing thoughts are just to continue to add value, continue to take feedback from your team, from your clients, your customers, and think of ways that you can improve their life. Continue to build it and build in those funnels on how you can stay connected with them. Maybe it's a drip campaign. Maybe it's just your blog that they're subscribing to, or mediums such as Blab or YouTube streaming, whatever it may be. Just continue to find out who your customers are, what they're looking for from you, and add value. And I promise you'll grow your leads and relationships and ROI. So I'm going to put a link, actually our topic here, and I'll post a link here shortly. But next week, we will be back here, same Blab channel, same time, relationships and ROI, talking about where to find your best leads and how to keep them. So we'll kind of be evolving this topic now that we're talking on serving. Where do you find those leads and how do you keep them? So we'd love to have you guys join us back next week. As we then end this, Ravi, where can people find you if they do think of questions later?
Sure. So you can catch me on ravishukle.com, ravishukle.com. And over there, you're going to find all the links to my social channels. But more importantly, make sure you follow us here, Jessica, Mike, and myself, because we are going to be creating this content on a weekly basis, and we wouldn't want you to miss out. And at the same time, all the content is recorded, so you can catch any of the replays as we go through this series.
Perfect.
Yes. All right. And, shout out from me to some of our audience members there. Antonio, good to see you there. And
picture up there.
Also good. Jonathan, you've been a steady guy coming back to a number of ours. Our Chris Kaysen, my Myers-Briggs type indicator guy. It was always good to have you in here. You can find me online at MikeGingrich.com. I'll put that in the notes there. And again, hoping to make these an ongoing weekly resource of adding value and serving our global community with some thoughts on, relationship and ROI.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and you can find me at jessicaphillips.com or twitter.com/Jessica Phillips, which is also connected to this Blab link here. I would love to stay in contact with all of you. I've built some relationships from these sessions with some familiar faces on here as well, and it's just been great growing with all of you. So I hope you guys will join us back here next week to dive into where to find your best leads and how to keep them here on Blab at 2. And Mike, I will see you in just 2 hours back here for Magnet Marketers.
Magnet Marketers.
About
all right.
SEO myths. So thank you guys.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Robbie, good evening.